Hey, thanks for clicking this video. This is another one of the Evermore conversation, another part of the Evermore conversation series where we talk about people who were influential in Evermore Park's history. And today we are joined by the very talented Grace Clark, who is very much of that group. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I've been excited to talk to you for a very long time. I've already talked about this in other videos on the channel, but you were one of the best, one of my favorites. So, one of the parts that maybe makes me feel that way is that out of every Evermore Park actor, you are the only one who was there for exactly the seasons that my channel covered. Like I was there for in 2022 all three of the main seasons and 2023 all three of the main seasons. And you are the only one who was there for all of those and no more, just like the exact same overlapping time period. So that's kind of a fun
Honor.
thing. Sweet. So one of the first things that I always like to ask is, how did you become aware of Evermore?
So I originally visited several times back in 2018, 2019. I have always been a massive fantasy nerd. So when I heard that there was a fantasy theme park, I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'm gonna go to it, and maybe it will like scratch an itch that I had for the genre. And yeah, I got hooked. I mean, I only went a few times, but I was absolutely hooked. Um, and I I had like an off thought. I kept seeing posts about like, oh, they're having auditions, especially around like the 2021 seasons. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna audition for it. And then life got in the way, and I was like, okay, maybe it's not meant to be. So, I leave, I don't think about it for a year. I come back literally night before the Mythos 2022 auditions. I'm like, whatever. I'm gonna send in my thing. My resume, and lo and behold, a few months later, I was in Mythos 2022. Anyways, that was a long way to say I heard about it through a friend, went there several times, and then truly started going there.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, like as a job, towards the end at least. So for when you were going there just as a guest at the first time, you said that you got hooked. Can you put your finger on what hooked you? Like what was interesting about Evermore to you?
So, I'm a massive acting nerd as well. I'm an actor. I have acted my whole life. It is a very prominent Theater is very prominent in my life. Um, I think the thing that originally hooked me was oh, dude, I heard they had dragons. I am a massive dragon nerd. I have a massive dragon model collection. I was like, oh, dude, I gotta go see this now. But I think one of the biggest things was that it was true like immersive theater. I had, you go to Disneyland and it's like, okay, they have that there, but Evermore had such a focus on it that watching I don't want to sound creepy when I say this. I say this in like a clinical way, but like watching the actors perform and do their craft in a in that type of setting was something I had never really like seen before. I had done a lot of like historical interpreting, but it wasn't the same. I mean, they were getting the audience involved. Um it was fascinating, I think, just to be able to experience that and to have your normal model of who's the audience, who's the actor, right? Flipped on its head, right? Um, I also loved that the quests, the quests in the 2018, 2019, I thought were incredible.
What were the
Uh,
quests like back then? Because that was before my time.
yeah, so I really liked the ranking systems they used to have.
Hmm.
So I know it took a lot longer for you to really build a rapport with the guild, more longer than it did in later years. Um, but there was something satisfying about it, even though I was only, I went there a few times, I still felt like I was making progress, like I was being productive with my time there. Um, my favorite one was I loved the Knights Guild. They were incredible to me. Um, I think my first interaction with them changed my brain chemistry. I was like, they're so cool. I want to be like them. How do I be like them? And them sending me on the quest lines of, oh, you gotta make a name for yourself. You gotta be nice to people and earn 3 pieces of gold by doing good deeds and stuff like that. And I remember thinking that that also helped me as a newer guest get really involved in, the story and get involved into what was happening in the town. Um, for at the me at the very least, it felt very accessible. It felt like I got to be a part of something bigger than myself, which was, I think, humanity yearns for connection, and I think it the quests helped me feel that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of rambling, but like it's
No,
an
I mean,
I'm
I
getting
understand
filled
exactly
with
what you're talking
emotion.
about. Yeah. When you went, were you pretending to be, pretending feels like a dismissive word or whatever, but were you a
Okay.
character or were you just Grace at Evermore? Or were you like, I'm this new persona?
Gotcha. So I was just Grace at Evermore. So
Yeah.
it's really funny because I love improv. I love theater. I all I do, for my job is to pretend to be other people. I have such a hard time when I'm not like actively like performing to
Hmm.
be somebody else. Um, I think people who can do that are incredible because I'm like I wish I could do that, but I'm a very awkward person naturally, so it's really hard for me sometimes. I was just Grace at Evermore, but they still treated me like I was some cool heroic character, and
Yeah.
that was a hooking moment. I am very introverted. I really was the type of guest who was like, "Oh, I'm just me. I don't really want to talk to anybody. I'm really nervous. I don't know how to get involved. I don't know if I want to be involved. It seems like a lot of responsibility, and I'm afraid to talk to people." And they made me feel so included, even when I was standing at the back of my group trying my best to not make eye contact. Um, and that was that was some serious skill, in my opinion. I don't know what they did, but that I think that was another part that kind of altered my brain chemistry was, oh, I feel very invited here. I feel very welcomed. I don't I feel like it's okay for me. I've been given permission and it's okay for me to get involved. So,
Yeah. I think that's part of the genius of the way that Evermore was set up is that
mhm,
there was a baked in storyline for why you, the actual you, a normal person wearing your sneakers and jeans or whatever showing up, is part of the story. Like, oh,
mhm,
there's a portal. You're coming from your normal world, but now you're actually in the town of Evermore. And it, yeah, it made it one less hurdle for people to clear before they could engage with the story like that. Um, because yeah, that is something I understand about your personality is that you are a little bit like more reserved and shy as a human being, even though your characters would frequently like be like very up above like yelling almost like very emotional kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I think it brought all kinds of people in that maybe normally wouldn't show up in a costume and say, I'm XY the night
mhm.
elf something and like really get into it. But if you can show up and you're frank, but like you actually have landed in this other world, I think that you can get a running start that way. Um,
Yes. Yes.
but the other thought I had while you were talking is that you were talking about how they invited you. They were very welcoming and reaching out trying to get you to participate. I think that that is something that some actors did and some actors didn't. And when I've talked in other videos, I've emphasized that that was one of your strengths was to actually help people to feel that you were excited that they had done some task or like completed a quest. You made them feel like they were doing something cool, and I think probably a lot of other people got hooked the same way that you did through that. Um, so you were there for. the 2 years that I was there as an actor, and you mentioned that you put in your like, how does that work? Like you told them the night before auditions that you wanted to participate. Was that too late? Like, how did that still get through? Like, what did that look like?
So I remember that the it technically closed at midnight. So
Oh,
even I was like, whoa, like cutting it close, but yeah.
it closed at midnight the day before you were actually supposed to show up, or you put it in the night before the deadline of like submitting, and then it was like a while later that the actual auditions occurred.
If I remember, it was the night before because I remember writing about it in my journal too. I was like, it's the night before, and I'm gonna try this thing. So I think I'm pretty sure it was, but it also could have been the just right before the deadline. Um, it
Cool.
feels like the night. If I remember correctly, it was like the night before. So it was really like I had been mulling over it all week. I was currently in a show, and I had a few friends from that show who were going to audition. Um, and they were all encouraging me to do it, but I was like, no, like, I thought Evermore was the coolest, and I definitely did not think that I had the skill set, especially as an actor, to really even hold my own in the auditions.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so, but after I got bribed with food. My friends said they would go out to lunch after the audition, so I was like, I do like food. I'm
Who
very,
are those friends? Are they people who like got the job at Evermore? Is it anyone that I would be familiar with? Or they
um,
didn't get it?
I was actually the only one from the group
Gotcha.
who originally got cast. I don't, yeah, because I don't think that you
That's
would,
fine.
but um, no, it was crazy. So I was like, okay, I'll go. I was very stressed out the entire audition. I didn't know what I was doing. I was kind of upfront about, hey, I don't know. I'm gonna just try my best. Um,
Yeah.
it's improv. I haven't done improv in a few years. So, I'm pulling out all the methods in my mind and I'm like, nothing's working. I think for one of my choices in the audition, I sat down and pretended to have a panic attack. Um,
In the audition.
like on the ground. I
You drew
sat
from
down,
real life for
yeah,
inspiration in
I
that
was just
moment.
method act. I was hugging my knees and like pretending to have a panic attack, and apparently that was great character.
That was a very physical performance that you
That was
just
very specific.
yeah.
It's totally not at all what I was feeling like. Um, but it was though, however, an idea that I'd been throwing around for a while. I didn't I have the tendency to not to act on things until, the night before. It's really hard for me to feel like I can shoot my shot, especially when I feel like it's out of my league. And this very much felt like out of my league.
Yeah, well, you were selling yourself short, as is probably common to a lot of us, because you did get cast as, is it pronounced Vashti, the dragon trainer? Vashti?
Vashti.
Vashti. Ah, beans. I messed it up. I
No,
only had it written down from when when I was attending that season, because I will have been there for all of these that we'll talk about from now on.
yeah.
I was like a census taker character. So I went up to all the characters and I was like, "Oh, what's your name?" And I would like write it down and I would
Mhm.
ask other information. Um, I asked you where you were from in character as Vashti.
Mhm.
And um, I grew up in the 90s, so this question that I'm about to ask might be like kind of. You said that you were from the Emerald Airy. Hey, Grace, is that from Neopets? Did you take that from Neopets?
Okay. So, okay, I swear. So the Emerald Eyrie was something that we all got that was given to us by the story team.
Oh, okay.
So that wasn't me, but it might have been
Maybe
someone
still
else.
from Neopets, but someone else put it there. Okay, but you remembered the actual part of your backstory that was given to you and like drew from.
Yes, I studied. So, um, a lot of it was very much like, okay, here's a paragraph. We're gonna all work together as a guild to help fill in the blanks and to kind of, help get a more sense of our character and also who we need to be customer service wise.
Hmm.
It is it it's an acting, but it's very heavily in customer service and making sure that everybody has a good time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I studied so hard. Like it was just a single paragraph. I read that thing over multiple times a day when I was in that rehearsal process. I was like, okay, I need to remember this. And then they told me this at a meeting, a story meeting, and so now I got to remember that. Um, uh, and I I remember the day that we opened, I was really scared that I was going to forget pertinent information and I was stressing and it turned out it was okay in
Yeah.
the
It
end.
was yeah. I mean, I understand the stress because there are complete freaks and animals like me running around with notebooks, like trying to distill information through you.
I
Um,
remember you.
I'm sorry about that. I
Oh,
apologize.
I
Um,
thought that was awesome.
yeah. But yeah, your character. So on that sheet that you got, did it say on there that you were like a specialist in healing science? Was it
Mhm.
do you remember? Oh no, I shouldn't ask too much detail about every single thing, or else one will never finish talking. And two, it's like it'll just be stressful for you to have to like recall things.
You're good. Um,
Um, yeah, what do you remember from what the character, the paragraph that you read?
yeah, so Vashti was a very skilled in the sciences. So she was kind of like, oh, the potion maker, the um I kind of saw her as a young prodigy, really excited to get out of the Eyrie, but also very much like um I am a very excited intern. I need to learn everything. Oh my gosh, what is that? I'm in everybody's faces. I'm in everybody's businesses. I think the wizards, the coolest guys ever, man. Like Peach is my idol. um,
Yeah.
I um very much eager to learn everything. I remember one of the character inspirations I've got was Abby from NCIS. Are you
No,
familiar?
I wish I got more references. I don't know who that is.
No, you're good. No, and essentially it's a forensic. She was like a forensic specialist in that show. Very upbeat, very quirky, despite having to deal with um, dead bodies and corpses because
Okay.
of yeah, it's a murder show. But that's kind of what I took from it. Someone who just really loves their job. Um, really enjoys dragons, isn't great at interacting with people, but is just really trying her best. Uh, doesn't really pick up on a lot of the Earth social cues, which this character felt very close to me as a person because that's essentially how I was as an actor, kind of like, oh, they're doing that acting technique. I have to write this, So I was in a very comfortable place playing that character.
Cool. And it was dragons. Like you said, you were
Ah!
obsessed with dragons. Were you hoping to get one of the dragon characters, or was that just like lucky happenstance?
So going into the audition, I didn't know. I was just grateful to even be like considered,
Yeah.
That was the best case scenario. I wanted to be a dragon trainer so bad. And I never mentioned it. I never said anything. That summer was honestly, I had the best time just being in a character who knew so much about dragons because then it was like, oh, okay, my interest in dragons is like I can talk to people about it. And a lot of the guest demographic is also interested in that. And so I'm having the time of my life talking about it. I'm having the time of my life hearing people say like, well, I heard in this mythology, dragons are like this and discussing dragon terminologies with people. I mean, it was a dream come true. I think genuinely that was my dream role, and I feel very lucky to have just been in that right off the bat because it just made my heart so happy.
It was the perfect match.
Yes.
And then in the following season, you
Hmm.
said in that mythos you thought that the wizards were really cool. And then in lore, you in a way became a wizard, which in this case it's the Society of Quite Unusually Acute Wizards of Knowledge, Squawk.
Yes.
Um, and you were Darcy Humboldt.
Yes.
And Darcy was like a theater director in her past, but was becoming a ghost hunter with this Adventurers Guild now. Um, what was that experience like? Is my general question before I dive
Yeah.
into the specific stuff.
Um, it was also a really fun experience. Um, so that was I remember I was really also stressed out for that character too because um I was trying to find a way to I had a really hard time embodying her the first time, the first few weeks I was with her. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was really stressed out. So I remember most of the rehearsal process, I was like, okay, I gotta be like, I'm posh, but I'm also like I'm super eccentric and I'm a little crazy because I'm trying to enslave ghosts for my theater company. And I think it was also kind of one of the seasons where I really had to embrace the fact of we are all in a Monty Python-esque
Yeah.
group favorite. That was I loved the people my guildmates, the people I got to work with that season because I think we all met the assignment and understood the assignment of kind of just wacky hijinks and um I I liked that character a lot. I sometimes wish that I feel like I came across as mean sometimes and um I think that was kind of the season where I was trying to be like, okay, I need to be like uppity and maybe have a bit of an air of like, oh, I'm better than you, but at the same time not be unapproachable and not be just straight up rude. Um, I also remember that we were also in the haunt as well. So there was also that dynamic of having to be, hi, we're friendly people that you can talk to in the festival. Come talk to us, let us send you on quests, right? And then to be in the haunt where you got to scare people, and our whole job was to be a jump scare at the statue. And so I think for a lot of the rehearsal process, I think that's why I was struggling to embody her because I was like, I'm such a silly character. I'm
Mhm.
so silly. I'm so just, in my own world, very eccentric, but at the same time, I need to be scary and it needs to make sense for me to jump out and scare people. Um, and I think, you know, as the season got up and going, I think we all kind of found our middle ground of being, scary or sudden, but also staying true to the nature of our guild and to the nature of our characters. Um,
Do you think that
and
was an unreasonable thing to ask to like have that dichotomy of like you
Mhm.
have to be a customer service representative on this side of the park, and then over here you're supposed to like bring terror to people? Like, was that a should they have maybe not made you guys go into the haunt, or was that a good thing? Did you think that was adding to people's park goers experience?
um, I think it was definitely a challenge, and I didn't quite have the full vision, so I don't know if I could truly say like, oh, it was a good idea, it wasn't a bad idea. I know it pushed me as an actor to really, section out sides of a character, because it pushed me to play characters more as a range rather than I am this one person and I do this one thing because, nobody's really like that. Everybody has ranges, right? And so I know that pushed me to do that. Um, I think as a guest, we had a lot of people actually come up to us after they would go through the haunt. First time people that we had never seen before and be like, "Yeah, I met one of your guys in the haunt and they like scared me and I wanted to see what was going on." I think as a guest, it was probably a good idea. Um, for a lot of the people who just went to Evermore to go through the haunt, um, it was kind of a sudden call to action for them to get more involved with the other side of the story in the park. Um, and so while it was hard, I think for us actors, I think it was a worthwhile pursuit.
Yeah. I can see that. I've always said that there's nothing more inviting than a jump scare. Generally, when people make me like actually like defecate myself, it's I go up and talk to them immediately afterwards. I'm like, hey, this is like let's learn about each other. I'm just kidding, but I actually can see where they're coming from because haunts are a recognizable offering. People are like, oh, I'm gonna go to a haunted house. I don't need to pull out like a book and study what's about to happen. Like I know what a haunted house is. And then yeah, they have an experience there that they can kind of draw from for the much less ordinary offering of Evermore with the other actors just kind of strewn about the park.
Yeah, and we were also pretty good about keeping our jump scares comedic as well. So it
I
was like,
remember
actually,
you
you
I
have to
almost
buy
felt
my
more bad for
watch.
you than you were like you seemed lost and stressed out in that area. And I'm like, oh, like I'm having a better time than she is, at least to kind of keep going past the statue or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense trying to like consolidate all of these aspects of Darcy. I also think that with any Evermore character, it is an improv experience. So like
Yes.
no matter how hard you try, you could try to prepare for everything that's gonna be thrown at you. And that's not always gonna work. Uh, and you said yourself that you have less of a experience with, or at least like orientation towards improv specifically, as opposed to more like traditional acting, like scripted roles. Was by this point in the second season, did you have a feel on improv and how it was different from acting? Did you feel like you were coming into your own a little bit more?
Absolutely. I I used the quest dialogue, so we had like specific things we needed to say for quests, um, to make sure that everybody went the same direction and would find all the things they need to find.
Yeah.
And I used that as a lifeline. So I realized I was like, okay, so I do really well with scripts, and I do really good with like analyzing that and holding on to that, and that felt like a safety blanket for me, you know. So having that quest dialogue be there for me and having me feel like I can memorize something, really gave me a solid foundation of the vibe of the guild and the direction I would need to go as the character. Um, and by that lore, I had gotten way more comfortable, with that improv. I The only other thing that I had ever done like it was I used to historical interpret at Lincoln's New Salem in Illinois. That was a job for a while for me.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the term historical interpret. Is that like a kind of what they do in like Williamsburg, Virginia? Like you're just in a different time period, but you're not really sorry. Hey, what how would you describe historical interpreting?
Yeah, it's very similar to what they do in Williamsburg. It's we so and I did this while growing up. My mom is a director, and so she would direct us and a lot of the people in that village that we used to interpret at. And it was honestly very similar to Evermore, minus the quests, minus the story. We would all, pretend to be different people. We'd have different names and we would talk to people. I know when my brother and I used to act there, sometimes we would get in trouble because anytime somebody would pull their phone out to take pictures, we would scream at them. And so, but people seem to be like, ah, ha, ha, funny. That's really funny because they don't know what phones are. So it was
Yeah.
never like a truly a bad thing, but it was definitely less about the character, more about okay, but also here's this like narrative passage about here's the place that we're standing in front of. This is what we are doing, but we're also in character. So sorry, going back to Evermore, Evermore was I got to use a lot of I realized I got to use a lot of skills that I had just picked up there. And you know, use them at Evermore. And it by the lower season, everything started to feel more familiar. I was like, okay, it's just that, but on steroids. Like a lot of like, tons of steroids, all the steroids,
Unsafe amounts
an
of
unsafe
medication
amount.
being injected into this.
Exactly. An unsafe amount of steroids. Um, and I, I felt more confident. And I think the biggest thing about Evermore is that it was such a confidence builder, I think for me and for a lot of other people. And in that lore season, I was like, okay, I'm stressed, but that's okay because we always land on our feet in the end. Um, yeah, so I did feel like I was coming into my own, and that was kind of the more season that I confided. That was a season that I kind of confided more in my co-actors and the people that I had a lot of scenes with of just like my concerns, my worries, my fears, and we were all able to work it out together.
Your
Um,
concerns and worries and fears about
mhm.
the experience of acting at Evermore Park. Like, what kind of stuff were you talking about? What do you mean?
Oh, just in the sense of like, oh man, I'm really stressed about this thing. I'm really stressed about getting the quest memorized. I'm really stressed about how is this scene gonna go? I don't know. I don't like, am I upstaging you? Like, what do I need to do better? Um, that was because I think in my Mythos season, I kind of just was like quiet. I did what I was told, and I made sure to stay
Yeah.
out of the way.
It's hard coming in as a brand new person. Like you don't want to just jump in and like make everyone think you're trying to take over.
Right. But I also think that was kind of the season I also got to um, confide in general, just about, oh, I'm really scared about being here, like I really hope I do good. It was never about like, oh, I hate this thing. It was always about I'm really scared that I'm not doing a good job or that I'm not doing my pay's worth. Like
Mhm.
I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing and even just kind of acting, when you act, you don't want to feel emotions. You want to, watch them take their course, but you don't want to like personally feel them.
Yeah.
And so it was really important to be very in tune with the people that you worked with. And I feel like that was the season that I kind of opened up and was able to be more in tune um, with the people around me.
That's so cool. And also it matches my like
Mhm.
previous experience that generally the types of people who feel those insecurities and worries are often the people who least need to. Like there's a lot of people who are like sure that like they're doing the best like or like don't care about that type of thing that like could probably use a little bit of reflection. Um but you were doing great.
You.
In terms of the improv side of it, one
Mhm.
of the moments that I saw was there was a guest who was like, "Oh, you were a theater director. What was the hardest thing that you ever experienced in your past as a theater director?" And you said, one time my actors tried to go on strike to like to not to like fight for better pay or whatever. And like you said it much more eloquently than this, obviously, but you were like, I shut that ish down quick or something like that. And I was like, oh, like wow, that's actually such a specific pull from this type of person. But I didn't know at the time that your mom was a theater director, so you had a wealth of experience to draw. I'm just kidding. Uh, or not. I don't know. I don't know your mom. Maybe maybe she also quashed a strike at some point, but I think that's just a Darcy thing.
Yeah. Well, it was nice because I got to I mean, once again, I'm pretty detached from my characters when I act. I you know, I'm in the moment, I'm present, I'm thinking through the character's eyes, I'm thinking or seeing through the character's eyes, I'm thinking through the character's thoughts. I'm in the moment, but sometimes I was like, oh, but you know what I can do? Complain about some of the climates of the acting world, and that's completely in character, and I can be awful about it.
Yeah.
And that was, I think that was kind of a little just nod of like, man, we can't get anything. And
It was
not
yeah.
anything in particular, just like how different, theater things. And if you're in theater, you're like, yeah, this does happen, and it's not good. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know. It was that was a little bit of a of a funny thing for me. I think I did that just for my self-enjoyment, but also it
So
was this is completely in character. I'm doing my job.
yeah, I mean, it works out perfectly, but I've seen other people do that too, where it's like, this one's for me. Like they'll put a joke or a little reference in their performance that's like,
Yeah.
maybe no one else in the world will think this is funny, but I do. I'm not saying that was what happened here, but I think it's a
95% of
fun
my
thing to do anyway.
yeah.
Um, do you miss that type of performing? Like where it's all real in the moment, you're reflecting through the character's eyes, kind of like more of an improv type of thing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Um, I I miss it so much. I've since gone back to acting, or sorry, stage acting, and I'm doing film on the side as well. Um, and I have had like an itch that I just can't scratch because it takes an incredible amount of skill to just be able to snap your fingers and you're in the moment, right? On camera or on stage. I miss when the world around me matched the moment I needed to have. When there was set and there was other actors and it was live. I guess I feel like I'm just describing a stage play again, but none of it's rehearsed. It's like I
Mhm.
really have to become the character. I really have to step inside their shoes. I miss it so much. Um, I recently just wrapped up my 45th production. And I like I didn't get the same I always like sorry, I'm like trying to find the words because once again it's like I wish I could just give an emotion. I
Yeah.
I didn't get the same amount of like satisfaction from it. I think that I used to be terrified of improv. Okay, like I had done it before. I had some training in it, but I was like, I hate it. Don't don't ask me to say anything off script, you know. It became so fulfilling um to live in a world, to bring others into that world. Um, and I guess I do miss the customer service side of things. Going back to what we first talked about of, feeling nervous and feeling scared about interacting with people. Knowing that that was me and knowing that I'm like that, it gave me also such a great amount of satisfaction to help others, come into the world and have a good time and to kind of, in a way, extend. I know when I want to do things, I always feel like I need to ask permission. So for me, to help someone feel like they have permission to get involved and to do those things, um, was very fulfilling, and it made my heart happy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably rambling,
No,
but
not at all.
I think that's what I missed the most about it was even though I'm playing a character, was the ability to help people build real human connection, not just with the characters, but between each other, and helping facilitate that. Um, I I miss it so much, um, and yeah, I know that I've been told that I say very out of pocket things when I'm improving, and I try not to, but. I don't mean to do those, and I feel bad every time I say something really out of pocket. Nothing offensive or bad, just like why would you? Okay, like
That's like the most memorable stuff for people sometimes, though. In the
yeah,
World Walker Discord, we had a channel specifically for like put the most out of pocket thing that somebody said to you tonight kind of thing. And it was like, yeah, some of people's like happiest moments. So that's cool. But also the fact that you're offering multiple types of welcoming hands to these people, bringing them into the universe and like helping to build connections with them and with each other. Um, yeah, those are all great things. I'm terrified. I always hit a point in these interviews where I'm like, oh no, I'm like I've been talking so much about like going, hmm, it's been almost an hour. I think so. I'm not even halfway through your actor like credentials, your different roles that you've played. Um, I th I need to gain confidence as an interviewer and not voice all of this stuff out as it's happening.
You're
But I do
good.
think I will attempt to move a little more quickly through the rest of these. And I think that like maybe it'll be easier because you've laid a lot of the groundwork about like what it was like for you performing in general. And I think probably a lot of those themes would carry over to like the future roles that you played as well. Including Duchess Ginger Snap
Ah,
of the gingerbread duchy. I almost said peppermint, which is a completely different guild.
how
Could you
dare
imagine?
you? They are
I'm so
enemies.
sorry. But yeah, you lived in a world in Aurora where food was mined. In my head, I'm like, wait, did I have that backwards? Like you would actually go out. It was stone and stuff, the ingredients for making gingerbread and stuff. And your organization procured these materials. Um, hey, what was it like playing Ginger Snap?
Ginger Snap was it was very last minute for me. Um,
What do you mean? It was not like a casting that was through the normal process, or your
oh,
preparation was last minute?
my preparation. So
Gotcha.
yeah, casting was awesome. Casting like got me everything I needed to know.
Okay.
That was the first season I had joined the writing team. And so I was,
Oh, way back then in 2022,
yeah,
you
way back
were
then.
writing
Mhm.
team. Okay. Yeah, I was
So,
going to ask about that later, but
oh,
this
you
is
were
earlier
good.
than I thought.
That was that was the very first season I had joined, and I didn't do a whole lot during that season because, um, first of all, I wasn't expecting to be added to the team. I
Did
didn't.
they just tell you, or like you didn't have to like submit your name for consideration, or what did that process of joining the writing team look like?
So I actually never submitted my name or anything. I had expressed so I also used to be a journalism intern. I worked for a news company, and so I was a social media consultant for a while. I was studying journalism, and so I think I had mentioned that to many people. I'm like, yeah, I love writing. I'm working, I'm working for this company. I'm writing for them, and I'm working on several other things and whatnot. And I remember I got a message from the higher ups one day saying, "Hey, the writing team would like to know if you would like to join them and be a part of the team as an intern." And it was really out of the blue for me. Um, I don't I don't remember, and I don't know if I ever got told. Um, the person who recommended me because they said I had been recommended by someone.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm very like I'm so grateful, so grateful. Um, but it was very sudden for me. Um, Once again, I was super honored, super grateful, but I was also like, oh, good. Ah, hi! I was like, I remember when I got the message, I was like, oh, maybe this was sent to the wrong person. I just
Is there
started
another
working here.
Grace that
Yeah, like,
like
is
they could
there
have
another
met?
Grace? Like, is me? And so, yeah, and so that was the first season. One of the first rehearsals, they were like, oh, we're gonna explain the story. And I was like, I'm just gonna stay sitting over here. I don't know what's going on because they had announced to everybody that I was gonna be joining the story team. Um, I was like about to pee my pants. I remember I was like, "Oh man, I am so excited, but I am so scared. I don't know what to do." So, sorry, I will not talk as much. I apologize.
No.
Long story short, that season I was spent trying to learn the ropes and kind of um figure out from the experienced writers and people who've actually worked in this industry and who were writers for the park for a while, what to do. And so when I finally got around to my character, I was like, "Oh, I have a character," and I kind of just I had to wing it. because by the time I got around to my character, we were open and I was go about to go in.
Yeah.
And so Ginger felt very last minute to me. I wasn't able to fully do all the processes, but she grew on me. She grew on me.
Yeah. That's cool. Um, Hey, if you viewer knows who recommended Grace for the story group, put it in the comments. I I'm just as you're saying this, I didn't recall it until like you just kind of like jogged my memory. The gingerbread duchy wasn't there the first week, right? Like, was that kind of related to this? It was more of a like the season came so much quicker than anyone expected. We're trying to like get things out kind of chunk by chunk.
Yes, so it's kind of what happens. That season was kind of hard on everybody because it was such a tight turnaround from lore. I mean, that the lore to Aurora is so tight. The amount
Yeah.
of stuff that has to, get taken down and then put back up, all the lights, the costumes, the um the acting, the actor pool, gets super small during Aurora.
Yeah.
Um, it's just such a tight turnaround. And I think I think that's why it was like, okay, for the first few weeks, it's, some people are coming in, they're all trickling in just because um the turnaround was just little little crazy.
Yeah. That makes sense. As somebody in the story group, I guess you knew this better at this point. What was the normal division of how the story group contributed to a character and the description of them and the kind of like their personality and the actor themselves, like how much they add to the character? How would you describe like where that work split was?
So work split, the story team usually wrote the base. So like the starting points for the actor to build the character. So like a lot of times there would be mentions about immediate personality choices that the actor would need to follow. Like, oh, you're very happy-go-lucky, or you are very depressing. Like stuff like that. And important details about the character's past, important details about their goal. A lot of it was giving the actors a goal. Like, this is what you need to work towards. This is why you're here. Um, it was really just the who, what, when, where, why. And a lot of times it was just like a simple paragraph about that. It really just answered all questions of anything that they would need to know, kind of like a guide, a handbook. And then the actor would take that and work with it and um, and build on top of that. That's the way that I always personally saw it too, as both someone who wrote, but also as an actor. That was the foundation, and I need to stick to that foundation. But we can build on top of it to, you know, add more personality. I think for everybody, the um like the percentage of how much was the actor and how much was the writing. Um, I think it varied person to person because you know, some would be a lot better at, taking more liberties and taking more leaps with their character. And some, I'm putting myself in the camp of the some would be like, this is what they wrote. I will follow it to the letter. I will not let them down. That was my whole, I was like, I got you. You want me to do this? You just say the word. And
This is a religious text to me. This is
yeah, I'm like,
canonical.
this is the Bible to me right now.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it was different for everybody, but a lot of things were also written knowing the actor and knowing their approach to it to make it more comfortable for them. And sometimes to push them in like a healthy way. Like sometimes you know, there would be roles that we were told to make certain ways to help, make people feel more comfortable or make people feel like a little bit more like outside their comfort zone. Like, ooh, I really want to see this person try to be like evil or like not angry, but like, you know,
Sometimes angry.
sometimes angry. Yeah,
Yeah.
And um I can't give quite an exact percentage, but I really would say it's 50-50. The actors really just make the character bring the character to life. They make the character flourish and shine. The story team gives them the strong foundation for them to lean back on as they make those characters that people like to interact with.
Yeah. Was there ever a time where you, as a story writer or as like the character actor, thought of some detail or like deep lore background thing that you never actually got to present in park? Like it just never came up, but in your mind you were always like, no, like this happened to this person, but you're the only one who knows it.
Yes. Um, there's like a laundry list, but I'll do my favorite. Um, I think I might have mentioned this once or twice, but it was always just kind of a one sentence thing. Um, Vashti is deathly afraid of chickens because
Oh,
it is an uncanny valley of a dragon.
it's just too close. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's just too close. I thought that was a funny running bit I had with one of the other actors of like, oh, there's chickens out there, and like, oh, I can't stand the chicken, and running away, like climbing on the wall to avoid the chickens who were, by the
There are chickens in
there
the
are
park like
chickens.
that are like wandering around sometimes. So,
Exactly. Yes. And I made that my whole thing that every time, like even when I was walking out to place and the park was open, I would always like get really nervous and like walk behind people and be like, can they see me? And obviously people are like, who are you? Get away. But then they would realize I'm working there and I'm like pointing at the chickens. I'm like, you don't think they can see me? Like they can, and I'd warn people like they can smell fear. Don't don't interact with them. I don't like them. But I never quite got out the fact that they were just, she hated them because it was Uncanny Valley. It was like,
yeah,
that's not a dragon. It's like not a dragon, but it could classify as one, and I hate it.
gotcha. So nobody thought to be like, why do you hate chickens so much? But if they did, you were like ready. You had
Yeah,
the reason on deck.
ready. But most of the times I was just like playing it for laughs and trying to, be like, nope, I will be the butt of the joke.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, okay, cool. So yeah, when it got to be the following year, so Evermore closes down for a couple of seasons to just like catch its breath or whatever. The next full season that came was in 2023, Mythos season in the summer, and you are Knight Lieutenant Isadora. Isadora? Oh, I keep
Yeah,
doing
Isadora.
Isadora. Okay, cool. Who was a noble's daughter and baker, but also like very much a knight.
Yeah.
Um, were you still in the story group at that point? I guess were what from your induction in that Aurora season, did you continue being part of that team until the park's closure?
Um, yes. Sorry, I don't know why I blanked. Yes, I did. So, or not until the park's closure. I was with them up until lore 20 I did lore 2023 and then I was and
Oh,
then
gotcha. Who, so all that was after that for people who don't follow the park really closely is that there was like a Charles Dickens Christmas, I want to say a Christmas story. I don't know why
Christmas.
my brain is doing that right
Would have
now.
loved to see that actually.
They had like their
There
BB
was.
Red Ryder guns. That's I'm mixing it together a lot of things. Wow. So also for context, I have a less than 2 month old and I'm up most of the night. So I'm feeling my brain leak out of my ears sometimes when I try to think of things. Um help.
Well, yeah, a Christmas Carol walkthrough.
Thank you. Oh, who wrote that?
I believe that was Andrew who wrote that.
Okay, gotcha.
Did a fantastic job. Just I love Andrew's writing. Andrew's a gift. Uh,
He's so
yeah,
nice.
because I think because by then it was just like they just needed one person, and I just quietly assumed that I was done. Because I was writing was awesome, and I am so honored I got the opportunity to write and to do all those wonderful things. And I'm lucky, and I'm once again, um, I think back very fondly on it that they took a look at me and were like, yeah, we like that person. So I think that was a really wonderful thing. I was really nervous the whole time I was writing. And I'm sure anybody else who wrote with me could attest that I was kind of a nervous wreck. And that wasn't the park's fault at all. That was just me trying to grapple what to do, and like how to do things. But yes, I did write all of most of 2023 until that final Aurora. And yeah.
Gotcha. When you say that you were nervous, is that like kind of following a theme of some of the stuff we talked about, like an imposter syndrome type of thing, where you're like, oh, I'm gonna mess this up somehow, or something different?
Yes, so very much following that imposter syndrome theme. I burned myself out really bad. I actually to this day, I've tried several times to be able to work on story intensive projects. I cannot write. I get nervous and I can't come up with ideas. And um I'm sad because I really liked the experience. It really like was not the park's fault or anybody that I worked with. I just I felt like I wasn't good enough the whole time. And I also it was very much like problem solving. Like we have to figure this out. There wasn't like a set way to necessarily do things. Like there was, form and function to a lot of things, but it was just also like changing the game because not only are you writing, you're also essentially acting as a game master. And
Yeah.
um I think I struggled with that part a lot because um it would take me 2 hours to write a single paragraph because I would write something down and then I'd delete it. And then I'd write something down, I say, no, that's not good enough, delete it, and I was forgetting the principles of just make it exist first, edit it later. Um, it it was really wonderful. I wish at the time I had been able to be more appreciative and show that a lot more to the people that I was writing with because every single one of them was incredibly supportive to me and was and the people, the higher ups, the managers were also incredibly supportive. I am so grateful to them. It was getting harder for me to enjoy acting when I always felt like the writing wasn't going to be good enough. And when I felt nervous that the actors weren't going to like what was written for them. And, even though it's like, oh, it's their job, like that's the way it is. It's like sometimes you just got to do your job, Sometimes, not everybody's going to be the hero, not everybody's going to, be the thing that they want to be, but you do it because we're all working in a team and it makes the vision come to life. It's really that teamwork is really important. But I think I really lost the plot when I just was so hyper aware of feeling like I needed to fix things and feeling like I didn't know how to do things. Um, and once again, the people that I worked with were so incredibly like so patient with me. I think it was also hard at the time too because I was like 18. And
Yeah, you were super young doing all this.
so I was really nervous because I was also like, I'm just an intern, but now I'm kind of in charge of things and it's stressing me out. And um, yeah, but everybody tried their best, and I know I tried my best, but sometimes it's hard for me to look back on things because it's like, oh, I should have done that better. Why didn't I do this better? And of course people hated that because like who would like that? What was I thinking? In my like sleepless nights of just writing and trying to figure things out. And I always fretted over the small things too. And I can look back on it now and be like, well, I didn't know. You know what? I really, I didn't know better. And, now I know. And if I ever find myself writing like that again, I have this experience to take with me and I love it. Yeah, I apologize once again if I'm rambling, but
No, I'm
that was
so
kind
grateful that you're sharing like your
of
experience and everything that happened. And I'm sure that the people in the writing group with you that were working with you, it was super easy for them to empathize with what you were going through because that's the most common thing ever to get kind of that paralysis of trying to do something and worrying about it a lot. I have videos that I recorded the dialogue for like YouTube videos for this channel back in 2022 when we were first started that like I still just haven't edited because it's like um the more sometimes it feels as if the more importance that you put on a task, the more you care about it, the more daunting it becomes. That it's
yes.
like, I want this so bad, I care about this so much that the thought of doing it and failing causes me to spiral. Like this is like I can't do it. So I the cool thing is that in your scenario, you did though. Like at the end of the day, you pushed through, and there was people who like had an experience with a story at Evermore Park, and I never did my damn videos. So good job on you. And plus, you also said that you were just an intern. What was that role? Was that a paid position? What were the expectations that came along with it? Like what responsibilities? Yeah, I was never an intern, so I don't know. Like not only just at Evermore Park, I just never have been an intern. So what was that like?
So it was a lot different than when I was working at the news company. Because at first I was
Yeah,
like, oh, like I got this. I'm an intern. I'm great at being intern. I just love everybody. That is my goal. And I will do what people tell me to do. Um I it was pretty similar. I mean, kind of. I don't know. It's once again, this is like another moment where I'm like, how do I encapsulate this? I did get paid. Yes. So we had
you clocked in at like different titles
yeah,
depending on what work you were doing.
exactly. Yeah. So
Okay.
I just clock in when you start working on the stuff and then clock out when you stop. There was like a set amount that they were like, okay, but we can only work up to here, set amount of hours. Um, which made sense because I was like, you don't you gotta knowing me and me deleting every sentence and then writing it back out, I was like, I would not pay me too, because it would probably take me a bajillion hours to get a paragraph out. Yes, I do not want to, I would not pay me either for that. Uh, but they did pay, they did pay us. Um, and my responsibilities. So at first I thought, okay, like I'm the backup guy. Like whatever you need, I'll get you a coffee. I'll get you.
That was your perception of it coming into it, is that you thought that you were gonna be kind of a secondary role.
Yes. So I
What
thought
was it like in reality? What was the division of labor between like a head writer and other people on the team?
so head writer had the most writing because they had to make sure everything was flowing well in the story. Um, then you had the writers, and I thought I was just gonna be like one of those guys, or even like lower, just like somebody you give like supplemental stuff to that they just
Yeah.
didn't have time to get around to. Um, it wasn't totally outlined for me. It was more just like, oh, you'll be helping them. And I was like, okay, I love helping. Uh, uh, and they, so really, it was head writer, and then your writers, your team would individually, they would write different. Like sometimes it would be like split up by guilds. Like, okay, this person's gonna tackle these two guilds. This person's gonna tackle these two, and this other person's gonna tackle the rest. Sometimes it is some people focus on some quests because they have more like personal expertise in said quests. Like maybe somebody has a lot of expertise in writing like murder mystery stories or something. And so, they get put on that because that's if that's what they do good, people should work to their strengths. Um it was very, very much like that, where the head writer had the most. and was kind of in charge of coordinating everything and making sure that everything fit. And then the writers were just in charge of the writers below were just in charge of making sure that there was content to organize.
Okay, cool. And then where we're at in this story with Mythos 2023, if I recall, it was Cameron Wright who was the head writer, at least when the season began.
Yes.
And then I remember by the end of the season, he like nobody ever said anything, nothing was announced, but he just like wasn't in the work Discord anymore. Um, did you end up taking on more responsibilities or what happened there? How did your role evolve over the course of Mythos?
Yeah. Um, so kind of by the end of Mythos, the writing team that I had worked with was gone except for me.
Were you
Um,
the only remaining member of the team by the end of the season?
yes.
And for people who are following Evermore history loosely, I always have to like talk to a specific audience. That was a another one of those events in Evermore history where there was a big changing of the guard type of thing. It towards the end of that summer season, the people who were the general managers of the park, the people who were over operations, the person who was over HR, just this enormous group of people, all were like let go or left, like combination of things. And then there was kind of like a different group left at the end. So you were just the writer by the end of the season.
Right. Yes. So, thankfully for Mythos, because it was the same day repeated, all the writing had been done by the time. And it was like I didn't really get a whole lot of details on. It was just one thing or another. Like someone's like, I got to focus on life more, or you know, other things happened. And I wasn't particularly too keyed in on. I wasn't keyed in on any of it. Um, but yeah, by the end of that, I I didn't there I mean, sorry, I'm like trying to think back to it. I was the only writer left um with everything that had happened. And so I didn't quite know what was going to happen for Lore because I thought that, oh, maybe those people are just taking a break and then they'll come back. Because that was a thing, that was a frequent thing to happen sometimes is that some actors or some people who would work there would take breaks for a season and then come back. And so I was like, oh, okay, like it's gonna be fine. We're gonna be good. And then I was asked to be the head writer for Lore. And I think that's kind of when I actually went into panic over mode, or overload of, I'm an intern. But
Yeah, you thought you were
it was like,
coming in to take this like very manageable workload, and then suddenly like it's on you. There was no support around you on the writing team anymore. And yeah, that would make me feel extremely stressed as well.
and the management was super supportive, like once again. And I'm really like, once again, I was like, wow, thank you for asking me. You got it. Like, it genuinely was an honor to take on that responsibility. Um, I just, I didn't I was ready to take it on. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna figure it out. We're all gonna, I'm gonna just be really like over communicate. I'm just gonna over communicate with everybody and we're gonna figure this out. And so that's when I started writing for lore. But then a lot of lore, like the original stuff, changed
Yeah. So
halfway through or not halfway through, like at the beginning of the rehearsal process. And usually we start writing before the rehearsal process so that when it gets there, there's more to show so that everybody, is on the same page and at least the overarching story is set and ready to go.
yeah. I was able to see a little bit of that from my perspective. I didn't work at the company in Lore or Aurora, but I was there in the summer when they were like, "All right, everybody, like hop into the call on Discord, and we're going to have a meeting about what Lore is going to be like and describe some stuff." And I was just like on my computer, like, boop. like join the meeting even though I'm not supposed to be there because I was like, I want to know everything that's happening in lore. Are you kidding me? Like that sounds so cool. And then yeah, in there they announced Grace is going to be the head writer, and I was like clapping in my room,
Oh,
whatever. And because I do love how you approach everything in such a positive manner. Like you have such a great giving, caring attitude.
oh,
I just wish for you in life that nobody takes advantage of it because that's like you're so kind. Never mind. Sorry. Anyway, they said in that meeting that they were going to do a lot of things differently, almost drastically so, from what I had experienced in Evermore up until that point. And one of the things that they said that they were going to do is that there were no more guild joining quests. So this was in the summer. They were already planning ahead for what it was going to be like. But I remember coming to you in Discord and like begging almost like, "Hey, I heard you're the head writer. You're not going to get rid of like being able to join guilds, right? Like that's such an amazing experience for people who come to the park." And I think by that point, it was when this changing of the guard had occurred, and something in that transition made it so that no, you actually were now again, maybe this wasn't great for you, but you were again now responsible for making all of these guilds and ways to join them, like before. Oh, sorry. Okay. And I can think of a couple other things that probably changed, but what was your perspective? Were the things that changed?
um, I think for me, it was a lot more of a collaborative process. Just from what I had seen, I don't know if it was like that in earlier seasons, but when I came in, it was very much like, hey, here's how everything's gonna go. And I was like, okay, got it. We have the game plan, we're gonna go. I think for lore, it was a lot more like there was a lot more meetings with actors to collaborate on, okay, what should this character be? What should um the feeling for this guild be? Does anybody have ideas for what we can do for um like quests or ideas? A lot of it more though was just focused on the vibes of guilds. They did have some preset things like, okay, we want this person to be this character and we want this person to be this character. There were some preset things,
Yeah.
but it was a lot more collaborative, which I think was fun. Um, but I also think that it might have been hard on a lot of actors because it was so collaborative, there was a lot less structure to it. Like there was a lot less I know I do well when there's a lot of structure. And so for someone like me, it was just it could be kind of difficult. Um I don't think it was bad though. I think it was a really cool process and it was kind of like a season that everybody wrote
Yeah.
and kind
The
of
labor was distributed more throughout the group instead of just like all weighing on one person.
yeah. And by that time, we had gotten two new writers. Um and um they were both fantastic. It was Andrew and Kevin. I, they're in my highest praises because they came into this, especially after the changing of the guard when things were really uncertain and were just ready to go and helped make the season happen.
Yeah.
And so they were honestly just fantastic. And I wasn't alone at that point anymore. It was just going into it that I was like, um, I had stress wrote a bunch of characters because I thought that's what we were still doing, and then the plan changed, and then I was like, okay, we're not doing those characters anymore. Okay, goodbye.
What were the characters like that they got dropped? Didn't end up being in the park?
Yeah, no, so they just totally got dropped. And I think that was fine because I was like, I don't want my ideas to be the only ideas that are characters. I think it feels more fresh and feels more exciting and feels it just reads better if multiple people help write the characters. And so that's eventually what ended up happening. And that was all distributed. It was awesome. It was fantastic. Um, yeah, so sorry, getting back on track. I like to get sidetracked a lot. Um, The collaborative process was different. Um, the the story was different too, because where we had Mythos, which was just the same day repeated with different outcomes, there was actually going to be an ongoing story and time was going to move forward as normal. Um, it was a little confusing to kind of feel like I had to like shoehorn that, like kind of make them like the two seasons fit together, where one had
Yeah.
flowing time and the other was a repeated. I think they were both like they were both like I think they both worked in their own ways. It was just like trying to bridge the gap because now there was going to be an ongoing story. Um, and as we know at the end, the finale night of that 2023 Mythos was when that ongoing story was revealed, and it was like, okay, the Dark Fae cursed the portal. There's gonna be something that happens.
Yeah.
Um, so I think those were the biggest things that were different.
And I guess this is my opportunity to ask a question that has been plaguing me for several years. Hey Grace, what is the fracture?
The fracture. Uh, so the best way that I can describe it, trying to go back into the annals of my mind, is the fracture is kind of a reality warping event where where because they cursed the portal, and because the portal is something that is cross realm dimensional, cross realm. I'm messing up my words. Cross realm.
Relatable.
Transdimensional. Oh my gosh, that's the word that I was looking for. Not dimensional, something. Yeah, that.
Yeah. There's the two worlds, and they
Two
did this.
worlds, and they go this, but the portal is bad because it got cursed. And
Mm.
I don't know, so I don't know if that was ever truly fleshed out. I remember when that was happening, I was brand new and I was like and so um it did get cursed, so it's not functioning properly anymore. So when people are coming through it, it's kind of warping them and messing them up.
So the people who were on the other side of the portal in lore would come through and be different once they got to the other side.
Yes. So essentially, some of them were able to make it through. It was some of them made it through before the curse even happened, so they were fine because it works as intended. Um, but also the area around the portal has been fractured, meaning reality has been changed, things have been warped, things are not functioning as they should, which means all the people around it um, got, you know, got, meaning
They got got.
they got. I I'm so scientific about this. I'm so sorry, and this is probably so disappointing. I'm so sorry.
No,
Um,
it's not. But
But essentially, what happened is also because the portal was cursed, it was letting out also a ton of like monsters and denizens from lore that they were actively trying to keep back. So they were all getting out. People were going near the portal and getting like essentially their physiology disfigured. For instance, Isadora went in because the knights were there to stop and protect the town. Um, and Warwick dies. She gets all upset, tries to run in. It messes her up. She comes back out, and then that's what you have. And then you have the next character. Um, it it was kind of vague, to be honest. Other than that, it was more just like people's minds were getting like memories were getting wiped. People's bodies were changing in really awful ways. It was like it like radiation almost. It was really bad for everybody involved. And then that's why the haunt kind of became that quarantine zone of like, oh, we keep all of them in there. We don't know what's going on. And it changes people. And there's really awful things going on. But yet I don't know if if I explain that in the best way, but is that all kind
I
of
think that
more
makes
makes sense
sense.
than it did?
All that I asked was that I could better understand your perspective on like this part of the story and stuff. and that happened exactly. So,
Oh, yes. Okay.
um, so the character that you alluded to that kind of came out of this event for you was
Yes.
the Spider Princess.
Hmm.
Um, and it is my understanding that you are heavily arachnophobic.
I am severely arachnophobic.
What was it like playing a spider and they drew like lots of eyes on your head sometimes and like little spider paraphernalia?
It felt like in that one scene in like The Fly where it was like, "Oh my God! Oh my God!" when I would go into a mirror because I mean, especially when I the following weeks as it got closer to the end when I'd put in the contacts too, so my eyes were completely black. I had fangs.
Yeah.
It was like there was a few times where I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I think I was pretty well aware of, oh yeah, it's just makeup, but at the same time, I was like, "Mm,
Don't like this, don't like this.
I'm like, I don't like this, but I like the character, so I'm gonna do it. I loved my knight character, and so I was really honored that they were like, oh, let's make it the same character, and I was like, okay, I'm down with this idea. Uh,
So
uh,
they came to you with that. Yeah, I guess the broader question is how much control did you have over you being this character? Because it's like you could have made it not be a spider, right? You were the head writer, or like how did that actually play out?
So I was always meant to be a spider princess. So that was the
That was
role.
one of those like nails that you said there were
Yes.
certain characters that they wanted to. Do you
Yes.
remember what any of the other ones were that like before the season even started, they're like, we need this person to be this character?
Um, I know they wanted a witch. They wanted a witch, and then it was
Yeah,
oh the
the
candy
Candy
witch,
Witch.
and slayed that. She slayed that. Lizzie is
Yeah, Lizzie's the best.
did a phenomenal job. I'm trying to remember. Um, I know that they wanted pirates, and they were kind
Okay.
of trying to figure out, okay, how can we add pirates into this? Then the brilliant idea was brought forward of pirates. Like that's really cool. And that was another thing that was kind of a nail. Like, okay, ghost pirates, we need a witch. And I know there were several other roles. They're not coming to mind right now, but I know for me at the very least it was supposed to be, okay, this is the costume you're in. And this is the archetype that you are going to fill, which is spider and princess archetype, meaning there's a character that the kids can interact with, not just kids, but like, like, oh, it's a princess,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a little princess. And I just think it's funny that that ended up going in like the exact opposite direction of like body horror and um I'm changing and I'm evil.
Why did the appearance change so much throughout the season? Like, what was the reason for you getting fangs and black eyes by the end?
So, Isadora was pulled out the portal by Kendrick. So she was prematurely saved. Um, and because once you are kind of touched by the fracture, there's sometimes not a whole lot that can be done to reverse it. And that was kind of the whole theme of this season was, okay, how do we reverse this? You know, and so she was changing because she was able to get away, unlike the a lot of the townsfolk who were stuck by the portal in that kind of quarantine zone where they were just gone. Like they weren't themselves at all, but there was like hints on their costume of like who they used to be and whatnot. Um, they were gone, but because she got away from it and was able to get outside of it, it kind of slowed it down.
But that
Um,
correction of the fracture was still there. It was still
yes.
something she was dealing with.
Yeah, it didn't stop it, it just slowed it down. And her appearance changed. So this was also a cool tool to use to bring in some really cool designs and just kind of let everybody get really creative with it. Um, her appearance changed because for her, it reflected her fears, her innermost fears. So it was very much a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation of she hates spiders. I also hate spiders, so I think that was really funny. And she her nickname during Mythos was Princess, and that was the one thing she did not want to be because she did not want to be known by her noble house. She was the 13th daughter of a noble line. She does not care about it. She does not need to care about it unless, 12 of her siblings die. And so that was her biggest fear, was also being seen as something to be protected instead of someone to protect or to
Do
do
the
the.
protecting. Yeah.
Yes, there we go. I'm sorry, my brain took out my ears too. And so that kind of the fracture was a really cool tool to bring to like visually bring out that character's worst fears, but also to kind of, make people question, is that the same character? Because that person looks completely different than previously. That could be a different character.
Was it supposed to be obvious to park goers that you were Isadora when you were the Spider Princess, or was it supposed to be we couldn't tell until the end?
I believe so. I did it because of what am I trying to say? Sorry. I did it. I'm struggling with my words. Um, for me, I decided to go the more of the obvious route because this was something that was going to be worked towards. And
Mhm.
also, like, the amount of people who would probably remember like a once-off night character is probably really slim.
We're out
And
there though.
what
Like,
was that?
I said we're out there though.
Yeah.
It is a non-zero population.
Yeah.
So
And so I I wanted to kind of also plant seeds for people who did not come to the Mythos season so that they could also be in on it. Because my biggest worry was, even also as a writer, was also leaving out people who didn't come to the season or it was their first time. I wanted everybody to be able to be cued in onto what was happening. And now sometimes it would be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Well, good luck with that. And sometimes it would be some people would take it as a call to action and be like, oh, we gotta figure this out. And then they would get involved. And, I think the hardest part was that I did have to space it out. And, it wasn't a problem that could just be resolved midway through the season. It had to be an end game thing. Um, Also because it takes away the um, kind of that progression, that build up. But I made it obvious because I wanted everybody to have the same experience with that character. And once again, not just people who came during Mythos.
that's cool. Um, I feel like I'm backtracking a little bit, but you talked about how Isadora is a character that wants to do the protecting.
Mhm.
I remember that part of your role and responsibilities during the Mythos season included sword fighting, like fight choreo. Was that the first time you'd ever done something like that? Or, I mean, you're extensively versed in like theater stuff, like even back going back to your family, it sounds like. But what? Hey, was that new?
No. Okay, so it was the first time that I had been trained in that style. Um, I I do have a background with stage combat. It's not very extensive, but it's like I've taken courses on it. I've done lots of shows that have had it. So I would not call myself like by no means am I an expert. By no means am I even remotely good at it. Um, but I did take extensive courses. I used to be a fencer as well. So I did
Nice.
yeah, so I did a lot of like fencing and sword fighting. On top of dragons, I also loved knights. So this was also another dream role that I was just placed into. I did not like I had no like power over it. I was just placed into it. I was like, this is great.
Your life is so eclectic and interesting. Okay, so did you like what out of these four, which was your favorite? Did you like being an actor at Evermore, being a stagehand or sorry, a stable hand at Melville Stables, being the person who is doing like these historical reenactments over on the West Coast, or being a fencer? I guess that's not being a role, it's just something you did, fencing.
Um,
Such a weird question.
no, 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 no. I think it's great. Because I always apologize because I'm like, I swear it sounds like I'm lying. I, I don't know. I have
You've done like all of the like Ren Fair adjacent things that could exist,
a lot.
possibly.
I used to also, I think somewhere between acting and horses. So I also used to, shortly after I left Mevo, I also used to train horses on the East Coast as well. Love horses and I love acting, and that's probably my like creme de la creme is if I can just do both, which is
Where's
very
acting?
creme de la, yes.
We should have had the jousting. Oh man, Evermore,
Man,
you dropped the ball.
they dropped the ball. How dare
They
they
never
not?
thought of it was the problem. Nobody ever suggested it. That would have made it happen, I
I
think.
would I would have been like, please, I will do anything. The funny thing about fencing is that I was so bad. I was like essentially left off of my rec team when I was like 12 because I was so bad. It's also because I kept accidentally hitting myself in the face with the sword when I would spar people.
Did you get like scars? Because those things are swords. They're real swords.
So
Well,
things
but you have a mask on, I
Yeah, I have
guess.
a mask, yeah, but it would be like like that. I think the only time I ever won a duel is when I was trying Saber, and I re like halfway through the duel, I was like, "Wait, I can just hit this guy in the head because that technically counts." And I'm like, I went at it. I baseball slapped him, which was fine. Like it was a helmet and it's a foil.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Needless to say, I've lost all the other times. So. Yeah, I like to pretend that I'm cool, but in reality, the biggest part about learning the Evermore sword fight was that I physically could not hold the sword with one hand because it was a one-handed sword. And so for the first while, and probably ever, I probably still did it. I was like, I'm gonna kill you, and I'm like pulling my whole
But it was
body
too
back.
heavy, like, to lift
I was
up.
just too weak. Like the sword was standard. The sword was great and the sword was
The sword
perfect.
was not weird at all. I
It was
was
not the,
weird.
I was weird because for all of the equestrian work I've done, my arms are sticks. And it was really funny also playing a character who was like, I am strength. I am the strength of the squadron. I am gonna beat guys up, and then, underneath my costume, I've got these like twig arms.
That would be me too, though, in that same situation. Oh man, that's so funny.
That's about where I'm at.
Okay, cool. How are you doing on time?
I'm so sorry. I probably talked too much.
Okay, so this is my dream. I just
Thanks.
feel bad because I invite you to come on and like donate of your time and give, and I'm just like, no, 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 I'm gonna drink it all up. Like your whole
I
day is
have been
fine.
I've been waiting to talk. This is also my dream. I'm like, oh,
Okay,
I want
cool.
to talk to somebody about so no, and also it's Bob. You're fantastic. You were like the Bob. So thank you.
Thanks. Okay, cool. I'm not gonna stress about it too much then. I'll just continue talking about the
Yeah,
stuff
don't worry
that,
about it.
that comes up. Okay. So I'm trying to limit myself down to Lore 2023, but it was such a big thing. Um, would you feel comfortable sharing from your perspective the overarching storyline of Lore 2023? You've already shared a lot about like the inciting incident, the fracture, the thing that is
Mhm.
driving a lot of the story and impacting everything that happens, but um that is my request. Is are you okay to like share the story of Lore 2023 from your perspective?
Absolutely, yeah. You'll have to forgive me if I kind of just glaze over some parts. It's been a hot second, and I was a
Yeah.
little crazy at the time. I was a little like, "Ah!" but
Yeah. For
I'm
good
pretty sure like
reason from what we
everybody,
talked about.
and I feel
Sorry.
bad. No, you're good, but like everybody was like that too. So I also say that like in solidarity, like yeah, it was a hard season. Yeah. So okay, the starting fracture happened because the Dark Fae cursed the portal. Everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. So they all quarantine them. Dante, a prolific I want to call him a sorcerer. He's a very magically or arcane gifted person. Is also there as the Regent Lord of the Knights of Lore. He casts I think he works with some other residents to cast a kind of like a barrier over the haunt area essentially to make sure that everybody in there stays in there while they figure it out and while they figure out how to bring everybody back. Because they don't want it spreading because when it spreads, it gets kind of bad. So the season starts off as normal. There was those few weeks where it was really calm, really quiet. The whole focus was that everybody could get familiar with the characters and get familiar with the quests and kind of have the opportunity to have those one-on-one conversations then before the story really started picking up and it was getting a little bit more difficult to have those conversations. So one of the inciting incidents is that now I'm sharing this a lot from the Knight's perspective because Dante was the overarching big bad, morally gray of the of the season. There is a lot going on. It's almost like 12 vignettes are going on at the same time. I mean, you have the moths and the witch and the moths were, there's a whole storyline about how the moths were children and they were later turned into, or, moths. There's a whole thing with the monster hunters. Um, the ghost pirates trap the serpent's plunder from Mythos inside a ship in a bottle and take their place in the park, which I loved that. Um, I think it was Andrew who brought that idea to the table of having the ship in the bottle idea, which was so genius.
Yeah, and they had an actual prop to
Yes!
like you
It
could go
was
and see the pirates from last season if you wanted.
yeah. So a lot of little vignettes were going on. So one of the big inciting incidents was Dante wanting to do a ritual because he was trying to get inside the quarantine zone. Now, they had already cast the spell, the zone was up, so he was going to need a lot of power to get in there. So he does this ritual. During the ritual, I believe Kendrick and Isadora, Spider Princess, are both, it wasn't expressly said, but they were used like batteries. So the entire season, Dante was using those two, especially as batteries, because he needed his Knights of Lore to be agile. So he had these two. One of them was a alcoholic, and the and like gone crazy, not just an alcoholic, but like absolutely just went nuts with grief. And then the
Yeah.
other was and pretty much an already dying person. So it was like, okay, I'm using these two and I'm gonna get in there to go see my wife. Um, and it fails because it is broken up by the mystics who are like, what are you doing? Don't do that. That's
Don't break the barrier in
oh,
any
we
way,
put it
Corinne.
there for a reason. Like, don't break it in. I actually think it was the mystics who might have put the barrier there. Those details are getting lost on me, but
Yeah.
someone puts the barrier there. And so they come mess up the ritual with the monster hunters. Um, and everybody's really upset. Dante's like really upset. Um, Kendrick and the Spider Princess are barely alive. Um, Dominic and Cora, the other two knights, are like, whoa, like that's a little weird. Like I think this guy might be evil. I don't know though. I don't know. So yeah, so more things happen. And I'm really just it's hard to get to everything because the season was really just a massive vignette of everybody trying to come to terms with either themselves being fractured and them losing their memory in the case of um Vera, one of the monster hunters who was actually the dragon trainer
Mhm.
from Mythos, like trying to come to terms with her memory loss. It was really just a ode to how like you could go anywhere, you can join any guild, and you would have a part in the story, or there would be another storyline going on.
Yeah.
I think everybody handled it beautifully. I think it was phenomenal, everybody's work, and yeah, so I'm gonna kind of skip ahead. So it's really kind of just a three-part story if I really think about it, because going into all the little details would be like, whew, I don't want to overload, but
But they were appreciated as like a park regular and stuff. The
Glad.
fact that you felt like there was such a depth of story there that you can't even find it all, really. Like you're never going to get to all of it.
Yeah.
Um, that was what made Evermore unique in some ways and really fun to engage with. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you're good. It was very much like a doomsday, everybody trying to cope with with a impending doom almost. I don't know if you've ever played The Legend of Zelda like Majora's Mask.
I've never played any Legend of Zelda games. I wish that I knew more references.
Oh, it's okay. But like I remember like when I was trying to explain that, I can't remember who I was explaining it to. I was like, that's kind of the vibe. Like if you talk to any of the NPCs in there, I love using games as a reference because it is a game. I mean, when you write it as a
Yeah.
game, it's kind of like everybody's coming to terms with it in their own way. It's very, very dark. Um, and that's kind of what's happening, and everybody's coming to terms with it. So comes the end. There's like a quick scene where Dante accidentally like summons the Tosher. Um, He comes out. Oh my gosh, Connor did a fantastic job. I didn't even know there was a sewer, so when he was like came up out of it, I was like, "Oh, there is."
That's a perfect place for Tasha to come out of too, because he was like the sewer man going around there.
Yes.
What went wrong story wise, or was it just like we didn't really think about it that much? It was just cool to have Connor come out for a little bit.
So I was given, I really want a ritual, but we also really want the Tosher. So put those things together.
Yeah,
I
this will
remember being
work out.
like, I'm not, I mean, I could make like a ritual work, but like the Tosher isn't really like he's magical, but I think the Tosher will show up if the Tosher wants to. I don't think one does not simply summon the Tosher.
Yeah, no one has that much power.
Yeah, like the Tosher is like he is his own cosmic force. And we are all just pawns in his game. Like if there was anybody to break the fourth wall, it is the Tosher. He
The
knows
Tasha is the main character of
he is the
Evermore. If you
main character.
really think about it,
Yes,
it's the thread.
exactly. That man is the main character. And so I remember I wrote it like 2 nights before, a night before, because I think I had only gotten the assignment like last minute.
Yeah.
And I think that they had mentioned that they wanted the Tosher, but like I didn't really have much details on like how if that wanted to happen. And I was just fine if he just showed up one day, because I feel like that would have also just he's just here. He can do
Yeah,
whatever
he lives in the town.
he lives in the town. Like he can do whatever he wants. I have no problem. And I remember that like I was trying to kind of piece it together. And so what ultimately happened was like there was a ritual and the Tasha was like, that's funny. I wonder what that feeling is, and follows it. And then just like, oh, well, I'm here.
Yeah.
And Dante thinking that he has summoned this like powerful being, this like cosmic creature to help him like break down the barrier. And so, Dante's talking to him, which the actor did a phenomenal job at hitting that kind of comedy home of like, I summon you to do this. And Natasha's like, I don't really want to do that, and then walks away. I think that was perfect. It was I think it was a scene that unintentionally this is something I felt bad about, that it unintentionally seemed like, okay, this is like really important lore and we're about to see something great. I
So
felt
all of the like park goers are like, I have to be there. This is going to be the biggest thing tonight.
exactly. And um at the end of the day, it was just kind of an introduction for the Tosher, and it was also kind of like, okay, I have this quota I need to meet, and I gotta do what I'm told, which is sticking these two things together.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it did. Because up until that point, anytime there was like a ritual, it was a really big deal. And so I can understand it being a little frustrating for guests being like, I showed up,
Well, the silly one.
yeah, for a silly one,
Silly
but
one is a treat this time.
there's a treat, exactly. But I was like, you know what? No one's disappointed because it's the Tosher, which is, yeah. So no one like
Yeah.
this
The
was great.
same population that would have cared about being let down also just kind of wanted to see the Toshers. So
Tosher,
it's a good
yeah,
scenario or whatever.
exactly. And so That's kind of what it ended up being, and that was kind of more of a request that I had to fill. And
It sounds like a twofold request, like it came from multiple places and then was brought to your attention by maybe even a third separate party.
yeah, well, it was it was kind of like that, but then it was like, okay, but we need a ritual, and I was like, okay. And I think just because I had such a short amount of time to write it and to figure out how that was even going to work and logistically, and thank goodness because I think Connor really did most of the heavy work of, I know a place, and I was like, great, I'll just tell her, we'll
Make
just
it happen.
yeah, just communicate that with everybody else and it will be there. But I remember I was like frantically writing it. Then I actually think it might have been the night before because I just was like, oh, I guess
The
I
theme
just got this assignment.
continues. The night before is when the motivation hits
Yeah,
hard.
it hits, and I also just got the assignment too.
Yeah, yeah,
I had to, well, and I think also it's because I had to tweak it a lot as well. Because it went from being like, oh, the Tosher's here to we have to summon the Tosher.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, but I think it was phenomenal. I just again, I have it was really cool to work with such experienced actors because they helped me see that I'm like, okay, like even though I'm stressed about writing, they got this.
Hmm.
Like I don't ever want to put like more on them, but like they can carry the scene and I need to stop worrying about, oh no, is this going to carry the scene? Because sometimes you just got to get it out and get it gone, you know? Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it really helps to have a creative team that's all working
Yes.
together. Everybody's able to like add something to it.
Mhm.
Um, as you were talking about this part, and this is not a criticism of the Tasha summoning at all, because I thought that was really cool. I was just more remembering earlier you were saying that there were certain things that you would do differently, like things that now that you've grown and learned, the specific words you were like, oh yeah, of course they don't like that. Why would they like that? I'm kind of curious, do you have specific things in mind that you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this differently, or people did not react positively to this in the way that I imagined? Um, or would you rather not talk about that stuff?
No, you're good. Once again, I'm an open book. I am this is a lot of things that I used to feel really, really bad about, and I used to be really hard on myself about. And for a while, I let it just really got to me. But I've had then, I've since had experiences that have been even like very rough, and I've been like, you know what? It's okay because I can come to terms with things. Um, I think for me, the specifically the ending of Lore. Obviously, I would have liked to rewrite the Toshers better, and I would have liked to, had more time to let it marinate in my brain juices. Uh, but um, but I think the biggest issue I had was the ending,
What
and
was it about the ending that you weren't satisfied with?
so okay, so a lot happened back behind the scenes towards the end of Lore, where it was like, okay, is it going to close? Is it not going to close? And no,
Yeah.
no. And there was a lot of turnover. There was a lot of uncertainty. And really everybody was just stressed and trying their best and trying to make this a fun experience for the guests while we were all panicking in the back of our minds, like, okay, like do we need to like figure out a plan B? What's happening? We don't have the resources we thought we don't have. We don't know what we're doing. The story um, is kind of getting derailed now because of just changes. Like like you know, sometimes like, oh, do we have the right tech for that? Or do we have this person anymore? Um do we have our sanity? Do we have the
That's
energy?
an important
Exactly.
ingredient sometimes.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
What would have been different? Like so what I'm your book is this much open right now. And
Oh, I'm
so
sorry.
I'm trying to like understand. It sounds to me as if the end result that happened in Park, it was not what you had initially envisioned. It was some kind of like compromise you had to come to in the middle. What would you have done if you didn't have these barriers or like these questions about whether things would be available?
Mhm. So I wasn't able to really work on the ending at all. Because it was at that point that I was mentally drained. I was emotionally drained. I had been so stressed. Um, I even was considering quitting.
Wow.
Um, because because of the writing, and because of my acting, and I just felt like I wasn't doing a good enough job. I didn't know what to do, and it had been a stressful season for everybody. I mean, nobody nobody got out of that season unscathed. I mean, everybody was just struggling, and we all did our best. Sorry, but what I would have done differently is that I it had to be given to another writer, which was fantastic, and that writer did a incredible job with the story. I mean, and the idea was better than anything I could have ever thought up myself. So I was like, yes, this is good. I would have not had dropped that on them. I wouldn't have dropped the ball on them so hard, behind the scenes. That is something that I would have done differently. Um, I would have also tried to be more specific in my writing and be more specific about the overarching story. Um, because and have plans in place when like maybe information was leaked that shouldn't have been leaked. That was kind of a big problem during that season, was that
Yeah.
a lot of information was leaked somehow. And
The For people who are following the story of Evermore Park loosely, one thing that you might be referring to is the Reddit post that um, it was supposed to be confidential information to the employees that this was going to be the last season. For whatever reason, I don't know why they made that decision, but it was supposed to be a secret. And then it was posted on Reddit, so everyone kind of knew and expected that this was the last season, but then it wasn't. Like it ended up actually not being the last season. So is that what you're referring to when you said the information was leaked or like other stuff too?
story elements were leaked early.
Do you
Um,
remember which story elements? I'm trying to
yeah,
remember
so
as like somebody eating it from the outside.
oh, you're good. So one of the rituals was supposed to be a surprise. It was supposed to be like, "Ooh, it's a sudden thing that's popped up. And we gotta go stop it." It was supposed to be like that for guests. But it was leaked, I think like a whole day before. And
That
um
the ritual was happening or what was going to happen
that
in the
the ritual
ritual?
was happening.
Okay.
And um I I don't think it ruined the ritual or anything, and I don't think it ruined particular, but it definitely does throw you for a loop mentally
Hmm.
because you're like, okay, but do I have to like put stuff in place to help? Like they're expecting it now, so like, what do I, what
Yeah.
do I do? And honestly, everything was fine. Like it went fine, and nobody got hurt, and it was great. Um, but it was also because of like information getting leaked. Like there was a someone leaked that the pirates were going to get married early too. Like I don't know how that information got out either. Um and I think a lot of times it was just um like, oh, I read this here, so I'm going to go like, spread it for other guilds, or like I'm in a different guild, so let me spread it so to help guide people. But
Yeah.
sometimes, oh wait, it's early, or like it's too early or whatnot. Um and it's really like nobody's like, I think it was all very well intentioned. I don't think anybody was like, I'm leaking the information. It was all just trying to everything was just well intentioned. And I think that also another thing I would have done differently is be better, have better communication on what what we can say and what we can't say.
Mhm.
I think that was something I also really dropped the ball on. So like I have like I was like it's okay, it got out, so just we just do it anyways. Like okay, so some people already know, but and sure that takes away the shock factor, but it's the experience that matters and watching it happen that matters at the end of the day. Um, that's definitely another thing that I would have me now, I would have liked to have been a little bit more emotionally prepared for because I did, I was in my manic state of like, everything has to be fixed and I don't know what I'm doing and I'm scared. Um, and I really appreciate the people who have stepped up in that final hour and made that season end well and gave it an ending when I couldn't. And I had been I, I had been used up, I think, by the end of that. So really that is the main thing that I would change is just not doing that, not being so like drained to the point where I'm considering quitting and I'm considering um giving up. Um and also being better about communication and not dropping the ball on people and fixing the story and making the story a lot more apparent to guests and making them be able to see like that's what's happening and this is what's happening and and yeah, sorry, that was a lot, but I hope
Don't be sorry. I mean, I was the one who asked. But yeah, I really appreciate you sharing all of that. I was asking just so I could understand your mindset and your approach to it and everything, not at all to say that like the end result ended up being bad. I think that it was an amazing season. I think that the way it concluded was satisfying for a lot of people. That final night, that Halloween, people who hadn't visited the park in years all showed up for the park's farewell, that this is the end kind of thing. And I think that the way that it all happened at the end did give them a send off. And I think that that's like, from the guest perspective, that's what's important is like, did people come and have a good time? And they definitely did. Um, Also, yeah, I just I feel bad the way that I phrase the question because I feel like you're always so hard on yourself when probably like everything was super amazing. Um,
it
One
feels
of the
good to
other things that that actually brings to mind though, I'm sorry I keep cutting you off.
I cut you off, I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. So in the same perspective, you always you gave so much of yourself in that final season until you had nothing left to give. You kind of gave a lot the whole time that you were at Evermore. Like I remember the first year you were there, probably even the first season, there was like a parade. You walked in the parade with the Evermore banner and everything. In that same period of time, you did like social media for the park, where like the one of the ones on there has 244,000 views for like the one that you're in the thumbnail of the main person or whatever. And all of that, I assume at least those two were unpaid. I don't know if like you went to the FanX booth and that was also you giving of your time and doing something that's extra and above and beyond and like tons of special events and stuff. Um, you gave a lot to this park. Why?
I gave a lot because I I saw the vision, I saw the dream, and I think I can say this for a lot of people too, that felt worth fighting for. Um, it was an incredible concept, an incredible idea, um, and I also have to say the people there were incredible. They have been some of the best people in my life, even to this day, who have always been there for me and supported me, and even long after the park has been closed. Um, it was it at the end of the day, it was because it was a love for the dream, a love for the people, and an absolute love for the craft. It is very rare to get an acting experience such as that. It is very rare to work with people who are so skilled and talented and who have spent many years in the industry. Um, really to, watch them lead by example and give their all to their craft and to feel like, okay, maybe I'm worthy enough to also try to follow in their footsteps and give my all to the craft. Evermore had such a wonderful community within it and around it that it was a no-brainer to give my all to it. And I also think that the way I want it to be able to help touch people's lives and touch people's hearts and um, inspire people the way that I was inspired when I was coming in, and to give that same confidence that I was given when coming in. It is really hard in the world, as we all know, and it is really hard to be a person. Um, I struggle with that every day, but I wanted to give back to my community and to the world, and in the best only way that I felt like I could, which is performance. And I think that's why I fought so hard. Just so much respect for everyone around me as well.
When you look back at all the moments that you had in Park portraying like a lot of different various characters, does is there any moment that stands out as being a really meaningful and memorable moment that you shared with somebody?
Absolutely. Um, oh shoot, there was just so many.
Yes, sorry.
Oh, you're good. I think I think one of the most memorable moments was, I guess I'm going to kind of generalize this because this happened so often, was seeing someone come in really nervous and really unsure of themselves and even cynical, sometimes even a little rude. Would be like, yeah, I know you're an actor and I don't even want to do this. This is stupid, you know? And like, hey, I'm not going to change your mind. My job is not to change your mind. My job is to give you an in to something that could be really fun for you and to get your tickets worth out of it, your money's worth out of it.
You came
So
to be here.
I'm
Like,
trying to
why are
help
you
you.
making it hard?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just trying to help you. Um, and but watching them be like, okay, this is pretty cool, to making new friends at the park, and then they come back again and they're with those new friends that they made there, and watching them get their own community with them or and find their place in the community as well, I think was incredible. Um, I also say that there was countless moments with a lot of families I met as well. Of There's this one family who was from out of state, but they came back the next summer I worked there all the way. They were like states away.
Yeah.
They came back because they loved it so much. And um I think there was also something in me that felt happy that I could help provide, um, alongside all the other actors there and operations, um, a place for families to go and have an adventure together as well. I think that it is hard to get that sometimes, and I'm glad that we were a place that was able to do that and able to be a memorable child, like I guess a childhood memory, for some people. And yeah, so many different moments. And I apologize I'm not being very specific, but I really do treasure every interaction that people had with the characters that I played, even though that it's not me and that I'm not really emotionally invested in things. So like I'm very much like it's not that I don't care. I just, it's also keeping myself safe and keeping my emotions safe and whatnot. Um, it was just beautiful to see everybody people have a good time and people feel confident to be themselves or be the idealistic version of themselves.
Yeah. The them at Evermore version.
Yeah.
Um, cool. I think that that's really beautiful. And I'm grateful that you were able to have that impact on so many people. I feel like this would be a good place to like end talking about the characters portion. But you did have another one.
I
Because there
did.
was Aurora at the end. And although this, even for the story of Evermore, it kind of felt like Laura was the conclusion. And then this was like a separate thing that happened after.
Yes.
But you were the Ghost of Christmas Future in
Yes.
the Aurora 2023 season.
Uh-huh.
Um, I have two like super specific questions about that that
Yeah.
maybe is like less fun.
Okay.
But one of the things you talked about information being leaked to different people and stuff. One of those was I saw some of the character sheets for that season, and it had listed on that character Huntress. Do you
Uh,
recall that? And do you know why it said Huntress? What am I missing there?
yeah. Um, so I think that was an early concept that was given for the character. Um, it was it was originally supposed to be like, oh, like I'm like a cool like dark hunter version because it's Evermore, so there's a fantasy spin on everything.
Yeah.
And then, it kind of moved out of that. I actually don't know the full like background for that. But I that's what I remember. But then ended up being different and yeah, yeah, I don't even know what to say. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
that's
not
fine.
the most succinct
I
talker.
when I saw that I was like, I don't know how to match that up with what I saw in Park.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I did see in Park, and I've pointed this out in other videos too, is that your character, although you spoke, you incorporated the silent point a
Yes.
lot at different parts. Was that deliberate? Because in the novel, that was how the Christmas future communicated.
Absolutely. That was 100% deliberate. So, because the whole thing was like, well, we still need you to talk. But
Yeah.
we still want the iconic, like, like that way, we want the point that the Ghost of Christmas Future does. We still want this to be like somewhat um, drawing from the book. So I was like, easy. I'm going to incorporate that. That can be done. I also have been told I have very hag-like hands because I'm
What?
double
Who told you
jointed.
you have hag-like hands?
I got cast in a film as a witch and without an audition because they said you are the most like perfect hag I've seen. And I was like, thank you
What are you
so
supposed to?
much.
Was that the Sacred Circle one that you did recently,
Yeah.
or
Well, I thought it was funny. They were like, they're just so witchy, not hag, but witchy.
yeah?
Um,
Witchy is
and
a very different thing from hag, though. Like, if someone called me witchy, I'd be like, oh, hell yeah. If they called me a hag, I would throw myself off of a bridge.
so I mix it up with another time where I worked as a server and I got a complaint that my hands look like in their words, hag hands.
Screw that
And
person, man. I hate that guy.
so it was a whole table of people. Anyway, so I've always pride, I used to be really self-conscious. I don't know why. There's like my hands are normal, but
Yeah, they are.
they're double jointed. So
Oh, okay. So they can like twist in ways that are like people aren't used to seeing.
yes, and I can push things off the bone that maybe aren't supposed to be off the bone, stuff like that. And so when they were like, do the point, I was like, oh, I am hag hands. My middle
Point
name is
time.
Hag Hands. I got you. No, and just for clarification, Sacred Circle was super, super polite about it, but I was like, okay, you know what? I'm with that. Yeah. So, but no, I have been told, Hag Hands is been a nickname I was called at a job I worked.
I'm so sorry you were called hag hands at a job. I mean, like, I have to move on from this, but that's the wildest thing I've ever
Yeah.
heard.
Anyways, I hope that
Um,
was helpful because I was like, yeah, I don't know. I got a trope. Sorry.
that was great. Cool. And then that ended up being the last season for Evermore. That there was they closed with the communication that they were going to open up again in the spring. They put up signs that said we're opening up again in the spring. That did not occur. So what was that like for you when this thing that you cared about a ton is gone? It's not here anymore.
I think at that point, I loved it and I loved the people around me. But during that time during Aurora, I kind of was like, well, these people can be in my like these people will be in my life, like the people that I've worked with. And because it really was about the people. The people just made it
Mhm.
shine. A- And I think by that Aurora, it felt different. It was like, okay, this isn't the place that I fell in love with, and not in a bad way. It's just things changed, and it was getting to
There
the
was no
point,
questing, there was no improv really. It was a
no,
different.
it exactly. And it was getting kind of to the point where it was it wasn't like, oh, I want this thing to die. No, no, no. It was more like, okay, I just don't see a way out of here. And I hope that someone can take this IP and someone can take it and use it in another way. But just with the way things were going, it was like, oh, this isn't, I'm ready, this isn't the place that I was at before, even just a year ago. And this isn't, I'm ready to move on. I think was my biggest thing was that after that lore, it kind of cemented that kind of felt like my goodbye to Evermore because I had already emotionally come to terms with the end of it, during lore.
Yeah.
I was also crazy during lore, so I was like, I everything I was ready, and I had kind of accepted it, and I yeah, it was hard, I think at first, but then I realized that there are so many other opportunities out there, and that while it was a wonderful time and a wonderful dream and an awesome um, time in my life that I will always cherish, I think it kind of got to a point where it was like, I think this is kind of the only thing that we can do, the only thing that we can do to like that can be done to save it, in my opinion, was to kind of just let it go and, you know, let it take a new form and,
Mhm.
someone give it a new life. And it's kind of cool to see that that has, happened, in a way. And yeah.
In which way? What do you mean? Because there's like different paths that branched out of Evermore.
Exactly. Yes. So I think specifically seeing that with like the Crooked Lantern Tavern and the Curiositorium, seeing those things given new life, the Crooked Lantern especially, like still being a replica and still being there, and all the former costumes, you know, being able to be used and loved and worn again, I think has been incredible. And the IP is still existent and it's still there and yeah, I just think it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
That's one of the incarnations. And you were able to actually go there for a photo shoot before it was ever like publicly open to other people to
Yes.
see the Curiositorium and the Crooked Lantern. What was that like?
Um, I remember all of us who were at the photo shoot had to take a second because we were all former actors when we got into the Crooked Lantern because it's 1-to-1 nearly. I mean, it was like I was gonna open those doors and it was gonna be the bridge by the mill.
Hmm.
It was really insane. And I think the biggest thing that made me like kind of go, oh, I don't know why I'm emotional was the counter smells still, because that counter had been in that tavern for years with the scent.
Soaking
Still,
up all that.
it's so, yeah, you can smell like, I don't, it's gonna sound weird. I promise I didn't just like snort the countertop.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of did actually.
A
Um,
little bit.
a little bit, but it smells like it, and all those of those feelings, and to see a lot of the old props and a lot of the old you know, artwork being so lovingly um cared for again and being put to use again. I think was just the most beautiful thing because I think one of my biggest fears, even though it's something that I couldn't control, and then I was like, I don't, I did my job, I did my job, and then I left, was just that, oh, man, that would really suck if things just were left to just rot,
If it was like really thrown out, destroyed, none of it was preserved, kind of thing.
because I think that there was just so much more life in those even items, costumes, objects, and I think so much more could have come out of it. And then it did, and then it happened. And I guess it was also pretty emotional for all of us to put on costumes that we used to wear,
Hmm.
um, and to kind of see how we as people have changed since we first put on those costumes. And I wore Vashti's costume, and
Yeah.
it was crazy. It was like I am a completely different person now than when and back in 2022. And even though that wasn't that long ago, it's crazy that um, I was able to. It was a weird moment of like, oh, we all grow and change, and it's nice to see that the park and the IP is growing and changing too.
Yeah. So that's kind of that branch of like the objects, the artifacts, the physical
Yes.
things of
Mhm.
Evermore. Those are kind of having a second life over there. There is still the land, the property, the buildings that is on that spot. And I'm watching that super closely because less than 2 months ago, another person has bought it. I think a lot of people are aware of the hatch the egg thing that happened back in 2024, but that ended in a legal dispute that they eventually just like settled out of court, and they're like, we're just going to drop this. But now, like very recently in 2026, somebody else has bought it, and I am unable to find any real tangible details beyond the people in the Fugal camp saying like it is now under contract with a new person, so it's not on the market anymore. Um, so if anyone knows anything about who bought it, please leave it in the comments because it could mean it's just going to get torn down and be built into housing or another thing. So I don't know. And then there's the gameplay thing, which kind of lives on in a way with Beyond the Gates, which you were involved with for a period of time, but are no longer a part of.
Yes.
So, what thoughts do you have about that?
Um, it's nice to see that that kind of experience is still relevant out there and still being used. Um, I mean, and I think the cool thing is that, like, while I think Beyond the Gates does it as well, I've also seen like there's been a lot of like fantasy balls I've seen who have utilized those quest aspects as well, which has been great.
Yes.
And I think that's been, I don't know if that was because of Evermore, I don't know what that, but I think that's been wonderful too. Um, I think Beyond the Gates, um, they 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 do have that quest aspect, and it's really nice to see it live on with them. Um, Obviously, it's hard because, right now I think nobody has a permanent place, like whether you're a ball or you're an event company or whatever. So like, it may not be the same thing, but I really do appreciate and love how they keep that alive. Um, and I know also this, similarly, like people are like, oh, LARPs and stuff, but it's not, it's not a LARP, it's a theatrical experience. And I think that that is really special that they are keeping that alive and well. And I think it's also special that to see um other event companies do a similar thing. What again, like I don't know if that has anything to do with Evermore, but just as
Yeah.
someone who loved that type of questing and that type of gameplay, seeing it alive and well, it just kind of like reminds me of like, okay, Evermore wasn't the end all be all,
Hmm.
there is so much out there and there's so much just waiting to be created. And it's I mean, I think the best way that it was put by one of the writers was that Evermore is is out there. like just I don't know how to, it was very poetic, just out there. Like it is the world beyond. And and it's nice to see that that is the case. I mean, there's elements of it everywhere, and it's there's always gonna be little bits of it, and there's always gonna be little bits of new things, and I think it's wonderful.
That's cool. Yeah, one of the new ball type things that you're talking about, there's the World Hopper Ball that Brandon Sanderson has thrown. And a lot of people who were formerly involved with Evermore went over and were participating in that too, as performers and as guests. Do you want to hear my favorite theory for who bought the property?
Yes,
Here's the
I
thing.
want to
Okay.
know.
People have been saying since before we even knew the Foxes took over that Brandon Sanderson was the one who bought it. And the reason why is because he, over the course of multiple years, bought all of the land surrounding Evermore,
Right.
which is like that's a fact. And he has announced his intentions for building like a bookstore, the Dragonsteel project, and everything. Um, but people would ask him over the course of 2024, 2025, even for most of it, are you going to buy Evermore? Have you ever thought about buying Evermore? And I have video clips of him saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not stupid. And then at the end of 2025, people asked it at that Dragonsteel Nexus, like, have you ever thought about doing buying Evermore? And he's like, I have been thinking about it. Um, there are some risks with the property, but like I've definitely considered it in some fashion. And then he gets an adaptation deal with Apple TV in that same year. And then suddenly Brandon Fugel's like, actually, the land has been sold, but we can't say who. And I reached out to Dragonsteel for comment, and they're like, we have no comment regarding anything with Evermore at this time. And I've asked them crap in previous years, and they've just like openly told me the answers and stuff. So this is not anything. But everything combined, I'm like he's changed it isn't just me changing the way that I'm saying it, like he's changing the way he's talking about it, so like maybe there's something there, but it's such a far-flung fantasy dream that I don't think I actually believe this, but it does remain my favorite theory on who bought it recently.
It
um
just goes like full circle. Like it just
yeah, so yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
this is okay. This is the longest interview that I've ever done.
I'm
Thank you
so
so
sorry.
much for joining me. And I'm sorry to give you that designation because I'm sure that it's like it's stolen so much of your time. Um,
Good. I apologize if
but
I've been rambling.
I this is an excellent interview, and I'm very very grateful for everything that you shared. And if people wanted to like check in on you and see what you're up to, where's the best place for them? You're doing a lot of stuff right now. You just mentioned that with like Sherwood, that was your 45th, you said.
Yes, my
Think
45th production.
that's a crazy amount of things to be doing. We've referred to short films that you've been in the recent. Where can people go to follow you if they are interested in keeping up on what you're up to? And is there anything that you want to talk about that is coming up for you?
Yeah, so if you want to follow me, you can follow me. My Instagram is the best place because that's just I'm scared of social media platforms, and Instagram was the only one like I learned how to formally use. So really, it's just Instagram. Um, I haven't. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Yeah, my Instagram is probably the best place, which is GRUHAYSEE.
Oh, and
Um,
the magical wannabe one, right? That's
And
another.
magical, yes, that's the one I do like cosplay on. I don't post cosplay that often. I'm planning on doing it. I have some stuff that I'm working on for that, just to help me to learn costuming and whatnot. But yeah, I'm very active as an actor on my main account, Gracie. Um, and then I should have picked a better username. I never thought I'd have to say it out loud one day. But I should have planned for that. And then For my next projects, I am mostly working on short films. I'm fairly new to film, so I'm trying to build up my credits and whatnot. And I mostly do stage, but I'm really trying. I just love film. I do have a few projects that I am currently working on. I unfortunately can't share any information about them, but they're. I imagine that I will post a lot about it, and if you know, um. I don't know what to say. Yeah, I think that's all I'll say is that I am working like there are things I am currently actively working on some things that but I wish I could share more and I'm like
Yeah,
I
no, it's
want to.
fine. I if you want to find out more later, you can follow Grace at those places she mentioned. And I from everything that I've learned about you over the years of knowing you, I expect to say see great things in the future. We'll probably hear from you a lot in the world. So, and
I appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk. I'm gonna go upstairs and feed my son a bottle or something. So I thank you again. I never know how to say goodbye, but
Oh, you
thank you.
thank you so much.
And thank you, person watching, for that, for doing. Have a good day.